Dave here from DT Customs. Welcome to the second episode of my channel. Today I'm going to be working on 18-inch AAX Sabian Bright Crash and a 20-inch AAX Sabian Explosion Fast Crash. I'll be doing a few cutouts and trying to make these cymbals sound great again, so hope you enjoy. It's one-handed, so excuse the, it's not usually this awkward, but what you do, you find the edge of the crack, you place the dish as close as you can to the edge of the crack, and what you do is you mark out around that dish, making sure to contain all of the crack in this marked out circle. I'll do that quickly now and show you the next step. As you can see, I've marked out the outline with whiteboard marker. It is run out now, so basically what you're seeing is just me rubbing the tip of the number marker against the grubby cymbal. But as you can see, all cracks are contained within this circle, including the big chunk, every crack. It's all contained. So what I'll do now is mark the other curvature of the cutout so that it's not just coming to as a little point, and I'll come back shortly after. So in marking out the rest of the curvature, you want to put your dish and you want it to touch the very rightmost part of your drawn out circle, and you want its bottom edge to touch the very edge of the cymbal. Then what you do is you join from that point all the way around to the bottom of the cymbal. And as you know, my whiteboard marker is not working, but it should create a line that gives you a very soft point at the end, and that will be your cutout shape. So this should be the finished product. As you can see, I've marked it out with silver mark so you can see it a bit better, but there will be a fluid curve around the crack and to the other side. Now this will make it so that when you hit the cymbal, there'll be no points where the tension will be too much and that, the crack might continue past this repair. So this gives the most even and most cymbal-like edge without any sort of structural unintegrity. So yeah, that's basically how you mark out a crack to be repaired. Well, for radial cracks and any sort of edge dings, things like that, that should be how you're approaching each and every one of them. Now this, you can cut down the cymbal, you can cut it down to a smaller size, you can do all sorts of things, but with any of those things it will change the whole sound of the cymbal. It will change it to have a lower overtone. It'll turn it into sounding more like a bell, unless you lay it down, unless you decrease the edge thickness. So this retains most of the edge thickness, whilst making sure that you don't have a crack influencing the sound. So yeah. Alright, so here we have Sabian AAX Explosion Fast Crash 20-inch cymbal. Picked this up as with a bunch of cymbals from this guy's all these Sabian AAX, just because they each had a crack, so I got a really good deal on all of them. And this one in particular I'm pretty excited about. It's fast crash, so it's quite thin. Now the only issue with it is this big chunk and this extended crack. So that in total runs about 3.5 inches from the edge. So the best thing to do in this case, because it is a fast crash, I want to retain the thinness and the taper of the edge. So I'm just going to cut this one out same as the other ones, just do a circle cutout and see. Hopefully it doesn't change the tone too much, but yeah, pretty excited about this one. And I'll show you the cutout and how much effect it'll have in a little bit. Okay, so marking out's done. As you can see, marked out circle containing the whole crack, containing the whole cutout, tapers down to the edge, and if I measure it out, it is about 3 and a bit inches. So out of a 20 inch, removing 3 and a bit inches takes it down to six and something inches. So it really doesn't remove that much. I'm pretty excited to see how this sounds when it's all cut out. It should be good. So first up, we're working on the 18-inch AAX bright crash. Here you see I'm drilling the pilot holes around the outline of the cutout that I'm going to make. So these holes you drill about a centimetre apart along the line of the cutout, and it basically gives you a really good, easy outline that you can start dremeling to. And it means you don't have to just outline the whole thing with the Dremel itself, because it can be quite inaccurate, and it can lead to, little nicks or marks being made in the material that you don't actually want to cut into. So I've finished off drilling the holes around that outline, and now I'm starting with the Dremel to cut in between those holes. So this process makes it a lot quicker because it's a lot easier to go from an existing cut with the Dremel through to another existing cut, rather than cutting unbroken, uncut material. As you can see, it was super quick to get through that first bit, get that first cracked piece off. And the rest of the process is quite the same, quite quick, quite easy, and also quite accurate. So you can see that a bit better here. I've turned it around. I'm continuing doing the pilot hole drills around the edge of the crack. Now I started on this crack, I started with a hacksaw just to see how hard it would be to do it with a hacksaw. I wouldn't recommend it. It's a very long and arduous process to go with the hacksaw. The hacksaw, it doesn't allow you to cut around rounded bits very easily. It's also, it does create a lot of heat actually using a hacksaw. So I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend using this process with a Dremel and a drill. my camera's autofocus, I've figured out since then how to turn that off. So please bear with the fuzziness. But as you can see, this is just rounding off the outer edges of the curve with the Dremel, and that's basically the cutout done in a crude state, unsanded. So that took about 10 minutes to do with that whole process. And here I'm starting on with the angle grinder. I've got a flat disc sander on the angle grinder, just rounding off the edges again. Now this cuts into the bits, the little holes that are left from the drill. So there will be little divots left, and this will get rid of those divots and smooth it down to a smooth edge. These are aluminium oxide flat discs you can get from any local trade shop, and they just fit onto your angle grinder. They're very, very useful for this sort of application, because you could do this with a Dremel, but it would take a long time. And then I'm just sanding it off with some finer grit sandpaper, just to remove any rough edges, remove any little bits of steel that are still on there. Yeah, basically just cleaning it up. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of this crack was quite significant on this cymbal. It's only an 18-inch cymbal, and the crack was around 3.5 inches. So quite a significant portion of the cymbal has been removed from doing this cutout. So I'm not expecting at this stage that the cymbal will sound, you know, very similar to how it did sound before. I'm expecting quite a different sound from the cymbal, usually with a lower diameter or a lower weight. You get a lower pitch of cymbal, I believe. Yeah. So at this stage, I'm hoping it doesn't sound too gongy or too low for a bright crash cymbal. But that's all part of the fun, is finding out how it's going to sound. So yeah, very exciting stuff. It's a lot more sanding. I've sped this up to 4 times just so, because it's very repetitive. It's a lot of just, you know, me skitzing my arm around, trying to sand off this edge as much as possible, changing grits of sandpaper, and trying to refine that line of spots that I missed with the angle grinder. And yeah, that looks like this finished product right there. And here we're moving on to the 20-inch stage crash, this one. Oh no, sorry, the 20-inch fast crash. So here you see me, I'm starting from fresh on this one. I'm drilling out the holes, the pilot holes for the outline of the cutout. You can see this crack initially was quite significant. You couldn't leave that as it was. There was actually a hairline crack extending it to about where I'm drilling now, from that big cutout section. And unfortunately, my autofocus again did not like me today. But excuse the fuzziness, you can still see what's going on. Unfortunately, with this sort of thing, you can't really go and refilm it, because it's, you know, you can't just do it again. But yeah, so again, about 1 centimeter apart, drilling these holes, trying my best not to bend or stress the sheet metal too much in the process. So I'm trying to hold it with, you know, clamps with my hand, and trying to minimize that flex, because I don't want that crack expanding just through this process. So that is a risk. I could probably use a better stand or mount to make this process a bit more fluid and a bit less stressful on the cymbal. but this is what I've got at the moment, and this is an easy setup for anyone, so this is probably the best way to show this process for anyone wanting to start out on doing this to their cymbals. This stand in particular, I picked this up from Bunnings for like 20 bucks, with all the bolts and the nuts and you know, drill bits and whatever I needed to make this stand into a cymbal stand. So very cheap, easy way to get started. And here I'm starting on the Dremel. So I start from the edge, just because that's my preference. It's easy to start from the edge in the direction of your Dremel spin. So if the Dremel's spinning, as you can see, I'm changing directions there because the Dremel is spinning clockwise. So you don't want the Dremel spinning the opposite way of what you're cutting, because then the material or the dust or whatever might fling off will fling up into your face. You want it to fling down or out, away from you. So you cut in the direction of the spin of the tool you're using. Whether that be an angle grinder, whether that be a Dremel, it's all the same rule applies. So yeah, this is essentially real time, sped up a little bit. You can see I'm already about 2/3 of the way through the crack. By this stage it's been about 5 minutes doing this repair. So really does make it a very quick process, doing the pilot drill cutout method. And I'm also, like, this is using, it could be quicker with the thinner Dremel cutting disc, but I'm using the thicker Dremel cutting disc just to sort of prolong the life of my tools. So it could even be quicker, but you know, I'm just being a bit stingy. So yeah, that's basically done there. Now again, just repeating the process, I'm going to get the angle grinder with the flat disc sander. So you got the AAX Bright Crash 18-inch. You can see big cutout. It's turned out okay. Smooth edges. Still needs to do some sanding on it, but overall pretty good. See how it sounds. Good. So this is the 20-inch crash. Let's give it a try. See how it sounds.